Tanya says that the soul that parents bring to their children, or that God provides for the children, as there are three partners in creation, the soul provided by God to the child is really not affected by the circumstances and the conditions in which the parents find themselves. And that's why there are times when a very lofty soul will be born to parents who are very ordinary, or maybe even less than that. So the soul itself is given from above by a divine plan, by a divine scheme, and is not affected by the parents. But the functionality of that soul, in order for the soul to be able to express itself in a body and function in the body, it needs certain garments or certain tools. And those tools that enable the soul to function in the body, those are affected and determined by the parent's behavior, by the parent's character, and by the parent's virtue. So although a Jew will be a Jew, and a godly soul will be a godly soul, and a tzaddik will be a tzaddik independent of the parents, the quality of life and the way this child is going to behave and function is strongly influenced by the parents and by their virtue or lack of. So whether it's going to be an effortless path for the godly soul to express itself in a body, or it's going to be a very difficult path with a lot of resistance from the body, these kinds of things, parents have a great effect on their child. This thing that is affected by the parents in terms of the godly soul, no matter how holy or great the soul might be, it can be handicapped, so to speak, by a mindset that doesn't cooperate with the godly soul's impulses. It just doesn't get it. And you see this in children, of course, right from birth practically. There are children who respond naturally, immediately, like a radar to everything negative. Anything bad, they're part of it. They're right there. Anything good, there's a resistance. It's scary. Then you have children who are the exact opposite.
And these are children of the same parents.
And good parents, right?
Yeah.
There are those children who are the exact opposite. They have this radar instinct, this immediate reaction and response to everything good and beautiful. And there's got to be some cause. There's got to be some determining factor in that. Now, obviously, there's certain obvious things. We now know that if parents use drugs, child is going to be affected. Parents are alcoholics, affected. But there are other conditions or emotions that are equally determinant. If the parents are planning to get divorced, they should not be making babies. Because with that distance, emotional distance, or the break in the emotional connection will negatively affect the child born from that kind of union, from that kind of intimacy. Basically because it's not a true intimacy. So children are created out of intimacy.
These are all mundane, terrestrial effects. I imagine that they're also supernatural determinations of what the child is going to be like. No, God decides also what the disposition of any given child is going to be.
Yeah. But either we'll never know about it because it's so mystical or whatever, or in the mystical realm, all this can be overlooked. So the parents were thinking, they weren't thinking, what's the difference?
Right.
So what we know on the terrestrial level is the conditions of mind and heart that are invested into the intimacy with which a child is created plays a very big role in the type of child that it's going to be. So, although everything can be compensated for, everything can be fixed. You know, if there was something wrong at the time, you compensate, you make up for it, you fix it. But it'll need to be fixed. So how we influence our children simply in the act of creating them needs a lot of study. It's a serious subject, and there's a lot to know about that.
Are you speaking scientifically here, or mystically?
No, I'm speaking Talmudically, actually.
Yeah.
According to Jewish law, you're not supposed to be intimate under certain circumstances, and the reason is because it is not the kind of intimacy that is healthy for a child. So again, being divorced in your heart, having decided that you're getting divorced, that is not going to create a healthy child. If you happen to be angry at each other at the moment of intimacy, that is not healthy for the child. Basically, it works like this. Healthy intimacy creates a healthy child. Anything that compromises the intimacy of the child-making process compromises the child. That's just intuitively logical. What you put into the dough will determine how the bread comes out. So
it certainly makes a lot of sense when the child is actually born and the parent's intimacy is compromised by anger or by anything like that.
At the time of conception.
I mean, I don't know if it's, intuitively, you're right, it makes sense. I don't know if it's scientifically, I'd love to know if it is scientifically
if somebody would study
upheld.
it,
It wouldn't surprise me that it is.
And intuitively and instinctively, parents, particularly mothers, know. Because I've heard from many mothers who said, at the time of the intimacy, I knew this would not be good. And I wished I could take it back and undo it because the circumstances were so bad, whatever. Point is, if a man decides he's going to divorce his wife, why are they being intimate?
So many reasons.
If you're angry at your wife, why are you being intimate?
Often people use that as a way of repairing something that is imminently about to be destroyed. So it's a kind of a last-minute attempt to repair something that's doomed.
Could be. Could also be that it's a spiteful thing.
Yeah.
Just for the heck of it.
Yeah.
Could also be that it's punishing.
Well, sexuality is notorious as a field of where one can express all kinds of emotions, most negative types of emotions.
Right.
Yeah.
If there is that element in the intimacy, that is not how you want to create a child.
Right.
The child has to be born out of the pleasure of the intimacy, not some other enjoyment, like revenge or control or...
It's ironic because it's supposed to be a productive event rather than a destructive one. Right? You're supposed to produce a child, not to actually destroy. Yeah.
And what you're doing is you're producing a complete human being.
Yeah.
Not a little body.
Right.
You're producing a set of feelings, sensitivities, emotions, mind, heart, the whole works. That's what you're creating. Otherwise, what are you creating? A little robot?
Right.
You're creating a human being. So obviously you're creating it with the mind and heart that you're investing in it. And that's why Torah is so particular about how children should be conceived and so on. Now, as the child is already born, you have the way that they're raised and trained. Every child, for health reasons, needs to know that certain things are out of the question. Zero tolerance. That becomes his anchor in life. It's a very interesting phenomenon. You hear people talk about, let's say, the chutzpah that children have today and talk back to their parents.
Yeah.
And then you hear the older generation say, not in my day.
Right.
I mean, we could, if I ever, I could never talk like that to my parents. And every time they tell it, it's with a smile.
Meaning,
It's a
that
pleasant
they were
memory.
happy that they were not able to talk. That's true.
Even, even when they say,
Yeah.
oh, if I tried, I'd be beaten black, and it's with a smile.
Right.
Because it is a good memory
Yeah.
that I had my borders, I had my anchor. There were certain things that just, that is not only moral, it is a definition of health. We affect the personality and the health of our children by providing anchors. And an anchor means zero tolerance. This you do not do under any circumstances. And this you have to do. Now you're a human being.
When these precepts are good. I mean, obviously the precepts can be abused or invented, right?
They can be twisted.
And they can also come from bad places, bad motivations on the parent side.
Yeah.
When something is
But then
comes from
there's a sliding scale. You can have the parents who have zero tolerance for putting your shoes on the couch. Yeah, it's not terribly twisted.
Yeah.
It's also not terribly important.
right.
But some kind of border, even if it's not the wisest, is better than none. I'm not talking about twisted borders, but frivolous maybe, right? You do not eat without a fork and knife. Okay, you know, it's not like the world is gonna, but
Do you-
there needs to be that acceptance of the fact that it's not all possible. There are certain limits.